Okay, so you want to run a medieval gong farming business. It is after sunset in late 15th century London. A householder has barred the front door, the cook has banked the fire, and you are guiding a cart into a rear yard through a passage barely wider than its wheels. Your customer is paying you to remove something he can no longer keep. Beneath the privy, a cesspit has been filling for years. You lift the cover and lower a lantern. One man climbs down and breaks up the compacted mass. Another fills tubs. The rest of the crew hauls them to the surface and carries them to the cart. By morning, the privy must work again. The yard must be passable, and everything you remove must be somewhere else. The householder pays because an overflowing pit can foul his property, leak toward a neighbor, and start the sort of argument that ends before local officials or a city court. Once the load leaves his yard, it may still have value. Farmers and gardeners outside the crowded center need material for their soil. If one of them accepts the cargo and perhaps pays for it, you can earn at both ends of the journey. At least, that is the attractive version. The less attractive version is a cart full of heavy, wet material that nobody wants, a tired crew waiting for wages, and a long road to the nearest place willing to take it. That is the business. The town certainly needs you. The question is whether you can move its waste cheaply enough to keep any of the money. The occupational name was already known in medieval England. Forms of gong farmer appear in evidence from around the beginning of the 14th century. Gong refers to a privy or its contents. Farmer does not mean you spend your days plowing fields. In medieval usage, farming could mean taking responsibility for a service or a source of revenue in exchange for payment or rent. In practice, you are a privy emptier with a crew, transport, and somewhere to put the contents. The cart matters more than the title. Late medieval towns concentrate people, animals, workshops, inns, and households inside a limited area. Some residents use chamber pots. Larger houses and shared properties may have privies over enclosed pits. Institutions and public latrines create larger deposits. Sooner or later, all of them need clearing. A household can postpone the job for years. That does not remove the demand. It stores it underground. When the privy begins to back up, the owner suddenly has very little room to bargain. The work is urgent, offensive, and hard to hand to the nearest casual laborer. You have the crew and the means to take the load away. But you do not need customers scattered across London. You need several within easy reach of one another. A deep pit on the far side of town may be worth less than a smaller one beside a broad lane. The contents are bulky and cheap. Every extra street crossed uses time that could have been spent on another paying job. Your smallest customers are private householders. Some control their own cesspit. Others share a privy with neighboring families, which means the first part of the work may be deciding who is responsible for the bill. You want that settled before anyone opens the pit. Once 4 households have each decided that the other 3 should pay, your crew can spend a long time standing in a yard for no useful reason. Before naming a price, you inspect the opening and the route to the cart. How deep is the pit? How solid are the contents? How many loads are likely to come out? Can the cart enter the yard, or must every tub be carried through a passage? Does that passage cross a kitchen, workshop, or shared courtyard? A pit beside a lane is ordinary work. A pit behind several buildings, reached through a narrow interior, is another bargain entirely. Inns and busy drinking houses are better customers. Their privies fill more quickly. And an innkeeper has a commercial reason to keep them usable. A householder may tolerate an unpleasant yard for a while. An innkeeper loses trade when guests must step around an overflowing pit. The real advantage is repeat work. You already know the access. The owner knows your terms. The crew can arrive without inspecting the site from the beginning, and you can fit the job into a regular route. Public latrines and large institutions offer something private customers rarely do: scheduled demand. English towns were increasingly involved in the placement, maintenance, and cleaning of urban privies during the later Middle Ages. A city body, ward, hospital, guildhall, castle, or similar institution might hire labor to clear a pit or maintain a midden. The arrangement need not resemble a modern municipal contract. You might be paid for one cleaning, hired for a period, or given a fixed sum to keep a facility usable. The valuable part is knowing that the work will return. An urgent private job may pay more on the night. Regular institutional work can be worth more over the year because it keeps the crew and cart occupied. The horse must be fed whether the cart moves or not. A scheduled job turns that feed into income. Being known to officials can also reassure householders. Your work takes place after dark and gives you access to enclosed yards. A recognized crew is less likely to be mistaken for a group of men who have discovered an unusually elaborate way to enter someone's property at night. Recognition comes with scrutiny. Officials and neighbors care when you move the load, which streets you use, and what falls from the cart. Later London regulations clearly required privies to be emptied at night, reflecting a longer concern with keeping the work away from the busiest hours. So you begin when most other trades stop. You do not need an elaborate workshop. You need spades, shovels, ropes, tubs, or buckets, perhaps a ladder, a covered light, and a cart sturdy enough to carry repeated loads of wet material. A recorded spade and shovel together cost about 3 pence in mid-15th century England. Hand tools are not what keeps most people out of the trade. Transport does. The cart requires more capital than the digging equipment. Then comes the draft animal, harness, feed, stabling, wheel repairs, axle repairs, and somewhere to leave a vehicle that no respectable neighbor wants beside his door. If you cannot afford a cart and animal, you hire them. That gets you into business with less money, but it also gives the owner of the transport a claim on every job. Hiring makes sense while you are testing the market. Once you have regular work, ownership becomes more attractive because the same cart can serve household pits, inns, public facilities, and deliveries beyond the town. Either way, a stationary cart earns nothing. Labor is the largest cost you face immediately. A deep pit cannot be cleared by one man if the contents must be lifted, carried, loaded, and removed before dawn. Someone works below. Someone fills the tubs. Others haul, carry, tip, and drive. When the business is small, you will probably do whichever part is slowest. Medieval enterprise offers very few clean shirts. You might pay the crew by the night, by the job, or with a share of the fee. A nightly wage is simple, but slow work becomes your expense. Payment by the job encourages speed. Though speed around a deep opening and a slippery ladder has obvious disadvantages. A share reduces the cash you need before the customer pays, but it also reduces your return on a valuable contract. An experienced crew earns its keep through coordination. The man below should not fill tubs faster than they can be lifted. Carriers should not stand idle while one digger struggles with a compacted layer. The driver should place the cart where each trip is short. These are small differences measured in steps and minutes. Over a night, they decide whether you finish the pit or must return with another crew, another light, and another round of wages. Now the cover comes off. The upper contents may be loose. Deeper down, years of accumulation can be packed together with ash, straw, kitchen refuse, household sweepings, broken pottery, scraps of cloth, and whatever else someone found easier to drop into a hole than carry away. This is not a neat barrel of fertilizer. It is part excrement, part rubbish heap, and occasionally part archaeological collection. That mixture matters when you try to dispose of it. Farmers want material that can be useful on land. They are less enthusiastic about stones, pottery fragments, and broken household objects. A cleaner load is easier to place. A badly mixed one may need sorting, storage, or a landholder willing to accept it without asking many questions. The worker nearest the bottom has the worst position. Some pits contain air so foul that a man can become dizzy or stop responding. You do not know the chemistry. You know that a lantern may burn badly, breathing may become difficult, and anyone who falls silent must be brought up quickly. The rope is therefore not only for the tubs. You keep men at the opening. You use a ladder when the depth demands it. If the air below seems wrong, you withdraw rather than send another worker down after the first. An experienced crew may not understand gases or microbes, but it understands that certain pits are dangerous. The structure can also fail. Old lining may loosen. A damp, unlined edge can give way beneath a worker or under the weight of men hauling from above. Even when nobody is injured, a collapse turns a routine cleaning into an excavation and may damage the customer's property. This is where pricing becomes difficult. The customer wants a fixed sum. You would rather be paid according to what comes out. If you quote one price for the whole pit, efficient work benefits you, but so does every hidden problem belong to you. If you charge by the load, the customer carries more of the uncertainty and may begin accusing you of arranging the tubs with suspicious creativity. A workable bargain is a basic charge for opening, clearing, and closing the pit, with additional payment if the job exceeds an agreed amount of labor or transport. The point is to avoid discovering halfway through the night that the bottom lies much farther down than anyone expected. Once the pit is empty, the job is still not finished. The cover must go back. The yard must be left usable. Most importantly, the contents must leave the property. The mound in your cart is not profit. For the moment, it is your responsibility. A leaking load can foul a street, anger residents, and bring unwanted attention from civic authorities. Cartboards loosen. Wet weight strains wheels and axles. Covering the load helps contain it, but takes time. Overloading may save a journey, right up to the moment a wheel fails in a narrow lane. Then, the entire neighborhood becomes involved in your business. From here, you can operate in one of two ways. The simpler model is removal. The customer pays enough to cover labor, transport, and disposal. You take the contents to an accepted midden, waste ground, or landholder, and your responsibility ends. If someone later finds value in the material, that is not central to your earnings. The more ambitious model is to control the waste after removal. You arrange for farmers or gardeners outside the dense part of town to receive it. Some may pay for a useful load. Others may merely let you leave it on their land. Free acceptance can be nearly as useful as a sale. Suppose a farmer offers a small payment but lives several miles farther away. Your crew remains on the road, the horse needs more feed, and the cart misses another urban job. A second farmer just beyond the gate pays nothing but takes the load immediately. The second arrangement may leave you with more money at the end of the week. A price is only useful after the cost of reaching it. Human waste could be applied to land, but it was not the only manure available. Farmers had animal dung, bedding, kitchen refuse, and mixed organic material closer to home. Your cargo is not a rare luxury. Its value depends on what it contains, where it is, and how much trouble comes with receiving it. Timing matters too. The city produces waste whenever pits fill. Farmers want material according to the needs of their land and working year. Those schedules do not always match. If nobody wants tonight's load immediately, you need somewhere to hold it. A midden or manure yard lets you combine smaller deliveries, remove obvious rubbish, and wait for a buyer or willing recipient. It also requires land or permission. Neighbors may object. Value sits in a heap while wages and feed must still be paid in coin. The famous second payment is therefore possible, not automatic. Sometimes a householder pays you to remove the contents and a farmer pays to receive them. Sometimes the farmer takes them for nothing, saving you the cost of disposal. Sometimes there is no nearby taker and you must pay, negotiate, or travel farther. The waste market helps only when the outlet is dependable and close. Consider a representative week. You have 2 scheduled-in jobs, several household pits in neighboring streets, and 1 public facility that needs regular attention. The public work supplies a base. It may not pay the best rate, but it gives the crew a fixed destination. The inns bring recurring jobs with familiar access. Household pits provide occasional higher fees, especially when an owner has waited until the need becomes urgent. At the end of each night, the cart follows the shortest acceptable route toward a holding place or a farmer outside the crowded center. A clean load might earn a little. A mixed load might be accepted for nothing. Both are better than paying to keep it somewhere else. The money does not arrive at the same time. A private householder may pay when the pit is closed. A familiar innkeeper may settle after several visits. An institution may be dependable but slow. A farmer pays, if he pays at all, only after the load arrives and proves acceptable. Your men do not eat promises. The horse does not accept a civic account as fodder. A business can therefore look profitable over the year and still leave your purse empty this week. Wages, candles, feed, repairs, and hired transport must often be paid before every customer has settled. A large contract brings more revenue, but it may also force you to advance more money. For a substantial private job, partial payment before work begins is useful. It buys labor, light, and transport. You may extend credit to an innkeeper whose repeat business you want to keep. A stranger with a full pit, no cash, and urgent promises is another matter. Charging a high fee is no help if you wait months to collect it. When money finally comes in, the crew takes the first share. Then the cart and animal must be paid for, whether through hire or upkeep. Feed, harness, lights, tools, and small repairs consume more. Disposal may earn a little, cost a little, or simply occupy time. You cannot pocket everything left after one successful night. A broken wheel can stop the whole operation. Spare shovels are cheap. Replacing major transport is not. This is why the cart and route sit at the center of the business. 4 laborers can empty a pit, but without transport, they have only moved the problem into the yard. A cart without a crew is equally useless. When both are working, the number of profitable jobs depends largely on distance. A crowded town helps and hinders you. It supplies many customers within a small area, but movement through narrow lanes, gates, markets, and busy streets is slow. Night work removes much of the traffic, though darkness makes every turn and doorway harder to judge. The sensible operator builds a route by neighborhood. You do not chase 3 good fees scattered across the city if the crew spends half the night traveling between them. You clear neighboring properties together and leave by one road. A public facility can anchor that route. Once the crew is already there, nearby inns and houses cost less to serve. The institutional payment does not have to support the entire enterprise. It helps make the private work around it cheaper. That is the strongest operating model. Regular institutional work underneath, repeat commercial customers around it, urgent household jobs when they fit the route, and a reliable place for the contents beyond the dense streets. The hazards remain. A fall can leave the crew short. A collapse can add hours of digging. A leaking cart can lead to complaints, cleanup, punishment, and lost customers. Dumping illegally may shorten one journey, but it threatens the route on which every later journey depends. You move offensive material through inhabited streets by permission, custom, or tolerance. If officials, gatekeepers, neighbors, and landholders stop trusting you, a full order book becomes useless. The stigma of the occupation works in two directions. Few people want the work, which limits competition. It also makes labor harder to retain. A man who can earn similar wages somewhere cleaner may leave, taking his experience with him. Customers may dislike your presence, but when a privy stops working, dislike becomes negotiable. Your bargaining power comes from combining three things: a crew that knows the work, transport that can finish it, and dependable access to disposal. A man with a shovel can enter a pit. He cannot promise that its contents will be gone before morning. So, can Gong-Farming make you rich? Not on the scale of a great wool merchant, moneylender, or landholder. Each additional customer brings another physical load. Growth requires more labor, more carts, more animals, and more places willing to receive the waste. You cannot expand the trade by moving numbers across a ledger. Someone must still lift every tub. But among the trades that kept a medieval town functioning, it could be a sound business. Demand recurs. The work is difficult to postpone. Stigma discourages competitors. Regular contracts keep expensive transport in use, while private emergencies can command better terms. If the removed material has a nearby outlet, disposal becomes cheaper and may occasionally produce extra income. The profitable operator is not the man who finds the deepest pit. He is the one who spends the least time carrying each load between customer and destination. Now you are back in the yard where the night began. The cover is in place. The householder can use the privy again. Your crew has loaded the last tub, and the cart is heading toward the gate with something the city wants gone, and a farmer may be willing to take. The dung itself is not your real product. Your product is the journey. From a place where it is a costly nuisance to a place where it may still be useful. In Gong-Farming, profit is measured less by the depth of the pit than by the length of the road.